Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morgan, off the Motor City Madmouth, and alongside me tonight is Rick Curdy. How you doing, Rick?
Hey guys, how are you?
And alongside of Rick Curdy, we have Mel Superstar Farr. How you doing there, Mel?
Good. How you doing?
All right, folks. Just so you know, Mel Farr just tipped his hand tonight, and aside from his football expertise, Mel Farr has said he's looking to do some boxing talk, and Mel's going to get that opportunity soon enough. So thanks for the additional information, Mr. Farr.
No problem.
All right, well, let's go ahead and
what they say: the more you can do. That's what they say, right? The more you can do.
Well, good. I'm going to keep you real busy now that you tipped your hand about the sweet science, a sport that you and I definitely grew up with growing up as kids. In fact, Mr. Curdy has too. So I got a lot of boxing programming in the very near future, and I'm looking forward to unleashing some of the new wrinkles we're going to have on the broadcast. So with that said, we're going to go to a sport we're all too familiar with, and we're going to talk about the National Football League tonight. And Mel, this is a position you actually played. That's running back. And we're going to lead off here with Frank Gore signing a one-year deal to play for the New York Jets. My goodness. What do you think Frank Gore has left in the tank? We're going to lead off with you, Mel, then you're going to follow, Rick.
Okay. In all honesty, he's stealing. He's stealing a paycheck and an opportunity for a young player to develop. Frank's not going to play any special teams, not at that age, and not with his resume. 15,000 yards. This is 15th year. He's got 15 years in the league. He's not going to play any special teams, so you're losing an opportunity to develop a young player. So it's going to take a roster spot from a young player. I'm happy for Frank. Obviously, I like him as a player. He's a tough guy. But, I think, at that age, it's really time to hang it up. I mean, I don't think he has anything left in the tank, to be honest with you. But somebody's willing to pay him. I can't blame him for taking the money.
Well, I mean, Adam Gase was Adam Gase his coach last year with Miami, or 2 years ago when they were there. So I wonder if there's a degree of familiarity.
2 years ago?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
So
2 years ago.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there you go.
But still, I mean, that just takes a roster spot from a young kid. So that means a young kid's not going to have an opportunity to fulfill his dream of becoming a professional football player. And it's unfortunate. I mean, they got Le'Veon Bell there. They have Gore. So they got two veterans there. Gore is not going to play any special teams. Le'Veon's not going to play any special teams. They don't carry many backs anymore on the roster. They don't carry more than three backs on the roster. Maybe some teams might carry four. So that's just going to be a missed opportunity for a young kid. That's when I first read it. That's what I thought.
Oh, you know what, Mel? I agree with you. There's no doubt about it. I'm surprised that Gore is still playing. But like you said, it comes down to somebody willing to pay him, they're going to do it. So I think there's other running backs certainly better than the guy. But remember, bear in mind, it looks like he's making his rounds within the division. Is he the only divisional team he hasn't been on is New England? But, yeah, he went to Miami, to Buffalo, and New York. So I think he knows that AFC he's pretty good. All right, Rick Curdy, go ahead. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I was surprised. I thought he retired already. So the question is whether we're going to have an NFL season. That's the thing for me. Are we going to have NFL or college football season this year? So, that's the question for me that I have. So, I mean, why not sign a one-year deal, get your money, develop a player, and he'll retire and probably sign a one-day contract with the 49ers and retires a 49er, and he'll go to the Hall of Fame. To me, he's one of the most underrated football players, if not running backs of all time. If you see his numbers, they're actually so incredibly impressive. They're up there with the great running backs of all time. So I like Frank Gore. I don't have a big issue with it because I don't even know if we're going to have an NFL season or not. And, they got Le'Veon, he's a joke. So, and he can develop somebody and be a good mentor for them, and they can study under Frank Gore. So I don't have a really big issue with it.
Now, the one thing we can't lose sight of in this whole point here is that Frank Gore played University of Miami, and Mel, I think he got seriously injured, so I was surprised that he even had the type of career, halfway decent career, despite all the injury issues that he had coming out from the Canes, right, Mel?
Well, I don't know. I think Frank Gore's greatest quality is his availability. I don't think he's missed very many games in the NFL.
No, I'm talking about in college.
Yeah, I can't remember whether or not he had an injury history in college or not, to be honest with you. But I do know that he was a good back, good, reliable, dependable back, hard-nosed, hard-running. I liked him at the University of Miami. I liked him when he went to San Francisco. I liked him I liked him everywhere he's been. He's been a good back. And like I said, his number one quality has been availability. The guy's been available. He has not, I think he might have missed only 2 games his entire career or something like that because of injury. So, I mean, he's been available. That's the key, to be able to play as long as he did, play the position that he's played, carry the ball as many times as he's carried it, taking as many hits as he's taken. And that's commendable.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, I believe Frank Gore injured his knees at the latter part of his career at Miami. But yeah, from a durability standpoint, Mel and Rick, you're right. In the NFL, he's been fantastic. So more power to him. And, again, he's the 3rd all-time leading rusher in NFL history, surpassed Barry Sanders. But then again, who knows how many yards Barry would have had he have not retired in his prime. So that's out there. So we'll go on from Frank Gore to Marshawn Lynch, who says his agent has been in talks with the Seahawks for a potential return. All right, Rick, what are your thoughts on this one?
Marshawn. I like Marshawn. He's a great guy, a colorful character. But I think it's time. It's like Frank Gore. Why not? We don't even know if we're going to have an NFL season. He might have a year left in the tank. I don't know. We'll see. But, why not? He's actually a part owner of an arena football team called the Oakland Panthers, and their season it got canceled already. So, why not? We have players here like we had Ted Ginn, and who actually signed a contract 1 year with the NFL because the season got canceled for our arena football team. So, hey, you know what? They feel that NFL could be starting there. Like I said, that's a big question mark. I'm not sure about that. But, if you're available and a team wants you, why not? So, more power to Marshawn, more power to Frank Gore, and even Ted Ginn. So, everything else is, like I said, canceled for them. And, they got a lot of free time, and they love the game, and a team offers them a lot of money, and they want them. So, hey, why not? So, good for Marshawn. We'll see what happens with him.
Go ahead, Mel.
Here's again, somebody's willing to pay him. I can't blame the player for considering it. But, at that age, at 34 years old, and playing the position the way he plays it, that's tough. I know at 34 years old where my mindset was, and it certainly wasn't thinking about taking any hits or anything like that and running up and down the football field, practicing, conditioning, all the things that you got to do to get yourself ready for an NFL season. I don't think that Seattle has really made any I know they drafted the one guy in the first round a couple of years ago. I didn't really care for that guy out of San Diego State. So, you look at what they have there, he's better than anything to have. So
that's true.
Obviously they'd be interested in having him come back, and they didn't really address it in the draft this year. I think they picked up 2 free agents or something like that. So, it's definitely a position of need. Russell Wilson trusts him, especially in the blocking scheme. If he has to stay in there and pick up a blitz protection or something like that, he's going to trust him. You know what he's going to give you on the field. He's going to give you everything that he has. He's a good locker room guy. He can still, he probably can still get you 800, maybe 1,000 yards. Just depend on, if he can stay focused mentally. I don't think that's ever been a problem. But at that age, health becomes a concern. Playing the way that he plays the game, he doesn't dodge many people. And so, that makes it real tough as far as him being able to stay healthy.
Yeah, their existing running backs, I think, sustained injuries for the latter part of the year, so they really needed him, especially in the playoffs. So he did play a few games. And more importantly, let's face it, you said Russell Wilson liked him. He's loved in Seattle, period. He's like a folk hero. And Pete Carroll loves him. As long as the guy running the show likes him, then why not? I think Marshawn Lynch in Seattle, to me, is a great fit if it can happen. And I hope that he does play another year up in the Pacific Northwest. No doubt about that. So I'm rooting for Marshawn for sure. Now we're going to change positions. We're going to go to wide receiver. Odell Beckham said 2020 will be one of his best seasons. The team was 6-10 in his first season, and he had only 4 touchdowns. All right, Mel, We'll rotate it, let you take off. I know the Browns have a new regime, a new coach, and a general manager. So, does Odell Beckham get it figured out in 2020?
And we've heard this before from Odell. Now it's time to just, now it's time to shut up and put up, man. It's time to go out there and show, show the world who he is. I mean, I think Odell became famous for the one-handed catch and then his histrionics off the field, all that stuff, the hair, all that. But as far as, he's had some production on the field. I'm not going to say he wasn't productive. Eli Manning wasn't the greatest quarterback at that particular time, but he put up some numbers. But they did a lot of talking last year in Cleveland, and they didn't put up very many. They didn't do that great. I mean, they didn't put up any numbers. So Odell, he was hurt. So if he can stay healthy, which has been a problem for him, he's got all the talent in the world from what everybody says. So there's no reason why he shouldn't put up some numbers with the offensive weapons that they have. He shouldn't have on that team. He shouldn't have, he's not going to have to worry about being double teamed or anything like that. They run the football well, so the defenses are going to have to play him honest. So there's no reason that he shouldn't put up big numbers if he stays healthy.
I think so too. All right, go ahead, Rick, and then I'll give you my take on this.
Odell Beckham is the biggest diva, biggest crybaby. So sick of hearing about this guy. I mean, what do you expect from a guy that wears a Rolex watch during an NFL game? I mean, it's all about him. He came to Cleveland, and he just can't shut up. He just can't. He didn't prove anything last year, and then he was squawking about wanting to get traded. I don't even know if he still wants to be with the Browns, to be quite honest. And now the Browns have another new head coach, and I give him probably 2 or 3 years because the owner Haslam don't know what he's doing. It's just revolving door there every 2 or 3 years. So I have no faith in Odell Beckham. When he can play, he can be great, but it's just the drama that he brings. It's all about him, his diva antics. Him crying on the sidelines. I mean, the man is an emotional wreck, and I wouldn't waste my time having Odell Beckham there. I think he's poison for a team, to be quite honest.
Yeah, it's amazing. The Giants grew tired of his antics. They found a taker with the Browns. And you can only hope that Baker Mayfield focuses and lets his play do the talking instead of his mouth. And that's where Kevin Stefanski is going to have his work cut out. I know that the Browns have surrounded Baker Mayfield with some more offensive linemen and some other weapons. I believe Jarvis Landry's there. So, but yeah, I think this is definitely a make-or-break year for Odell Beckham, and I'm really tired of him. I'm surprised guys like him are still in the league, but I'd give him a couple more years in the league at the very most if he can't get it figured out. And he's going to have to get it out relatively soon, because how many welcomes guys can you wear out after a while? You tell me. Mel, what do you think?
Well, I mean, it's no different than Antonio Brown. I mean, he's got to be very careful because he could find himself like Antonio Brown, where nobody wants him, where he's out of second chances. It just tells you what type of job Mike Tomlin did with the Pittsburgh Steelers when Antonio Brown was there. So, Odell, he hasn't got to that point yet. But if he's not careful, it could become ugly, because they're in a tough division. I mean, they're in a division with Pittsburgh and Baltimore. So, I mean, that those two are, Pittsburgh and Baltimore are the gold standards in that division. And Cincinnati and Cleveland, they're trying to get there. And so it's not going to be a cakewalk. I don't care, what kind of players they got on the field, who they are. It doesn't matter whether or not they can play together, whether they can come together, put together some good runs, some wins, and win that division. So just winning that division is going to be tough. And he hasn't really been accustomed to winning because the Giants weren't doing anything there. So you saw the frustration boil over. So a couple not winning and not being productive. There's no telling what Odell could do. What direction he could go. So he has to be careful.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
You can wear out your welcome.
Oh yeah, no question about that. Yeah, I personally, he'll have to prove it to me until I'm a believer of this guy. He really will. All right, now a surprising development over the weekend was Andy Dalton landing with the Dallas Cowboys. All right, Rick, you lead off, and then I'll have Mel take over, and I'll chime in.
Well, he went to the to TCU in Dallas, so that makes a lot of sense. And he has a home in Dallas, so I mean, I was surprised too. I thought for sure he was going to go to New England since they have some quarterback issues there. So I was kind of surprised, but you look at it all together. He's from there. He went to college there, and he's got a home there. And he's really not a starting quarterback. So I always saw him as like a backup or going to some team that desperately needed a quarterback, sort of like. The Patriots. So, I was kind of taken back by it, but at the same time, put it all together, it makes sense, and, get some, and they still have to address the issue with Dak Prescott, since they franchised him. So, it's a good pickup. Why not? He's making a lot of money as a backup, and, who knows what the future has for the Cowboys, but, why not?
Go ahead, Mel.
Yeah, I think I was surprised without question, but I think they improved their quarterback room, they improved their backup quarterback situation. If for some reason Dak would get hurt or come down with COVID-19 or something like that, they have a guy who's won games in the NFL, who started in the NFL and won a lot of games in the NFL. I don't think that this is has anything to do with Dak's contract. I think they're going to pay him. I believe that that's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. But, I think Dallas is just, making that position competitive, just like every other position should be. And, all that's going to do is make Dak better. And Dak being better is going to make the Cowboys better. So I think it was a good move on their part. Now, I was surprised because I really did think, for some reason, I thought Andy Dalton was going to go to the Patriots.
Yeah, me too.
And I thought they'd try to plug and play him there and try to resurrect his career, and the Patriots would have been a lot better off. But it was surprising to see him sign with Dallas. But I can understand all the reasoning because he has a home down there, his family's down there, and it's a 1-year deal. When this COVID-19 thing passes, and maybe next year he can go somewhere and compete for a starting job.
Yeah, $3 million isn't a bad job if you can get it in your home state where you don't have to pay state income tax. So they definitely made out pretty well. I think he is getting paid $3 million. The only one who's a bigger bargain is Jameis Winston, who I thought made a wise decision to go to New Orleans. So we'll address that another night. But yeah, I'm happy for Andy. I thought he got a raw deal in Cincinnati, and I think he still has some really good days left in the league. Right now, this is just a chance to sit back, hold a clipboard, and take it from there. Because I'll tell you what, Dak Prescott gets hurt, they'll be thankful that they have Dalton right there in Big D. So got 3 more topics to get around to, and we're going to go ahead and talk about the dynamics of Jalen Hurts and Carson Wentz in Philadelphia. Do you like the move, Mel?
Yeah, like I said, I like the move for the player because Jalen Hurts, from everything that I've seen, and I've watched the kid play for the last 4 years, from the time he was a freshman at Alabama, and he won the starting job and chased off the one guy who left, who was the incumbent starter, and he left after Jalen won the starting job. And just his demeanor, the way he carries himself, his work ethic, everything about the kid, I was so happy for him. And, what happened with Tua, and he understands that was his fault. He left the door open for that to happen because he didn't make the necessary improvements to keep that job. And then to go to Oklahoma and have the type of season that he had at Oklahoma after he transferred there, and for him to be one of the Heisman Trophy finalists and get drafted in the second round. I think Lamar Jackson did a lot for Jalen Hurts. I think he needs to thank Lamar Jackson for what Lamar Jackson did this past NFL season, because I really thought that Jalen Hurts would go to Baltimore. I thought that would be the perfect place for him to go, because I don't think Lamar Jackson's going to be able to take that kind of a beating week in and week out. And if you have somebody else that can go right in there and do the same thing, you don't have to change your offense or anything like that. That made all the sense in the world. But I think Philadelphia stepped up and got a player. Their quarterback, he hasn't finished the year. Even last year when they got to the playoffs, he got hurt. So, they're looking at it from that standpoint and making their quarterback room competitive, which is always good. Because, again, the better the quarterback play is, the more competitive that room is, the better the play is going to be. It's just best. That's going to work out best for the team. So, yeah, I think it was a good pick on behalf of the Philadelphia Eagles. And then he has an opportunity to go there and learn from Carson Wentz and learn from Doug Peterson. He's got some good minds there, some good football minds there, and help him become a better all-around quarterback.
Go ahead, Rick.
Oh, I love the move. I thought it was great. I give kudos to the Eagles for drafting him, because you know how their fans are. They boo. I mean, they even booed Santa Claus. So I mean, they're never happy. I know they weren't happy with this pick. I love Jalen Hurts, man. This guy could do anything with any team. I mean, he went to two playoff rounds with two different teams. Was a Heisman finalist last season with another university, and really made Alabama really maybe we should have kept him. So good for him. I love his passion. I love his desire. And I think they'll just use him for packages. I can see him being like a wide receiver. I can see him doing some wildcat plays. I think when they need some first yard yards, they'll plug him in there, give Carson some rest. And I'm not really a Wentz fan at all, so I think it's a great move, and I think it'll put a little bit of pressure on Carson to, we got another quarterback here, and, the Eagles did win a Super Bowl without him. They won it with Nick Foles, so, that's always been the question for Carson Wentz. He's always hurt a lot, and so I love the move. I think it's great, and kudos to the Eagles for doing that, and I just think it's an outstanding move from them. So I love it, and I want Jalen Hurts to succeed so well in the NFL.
Well, you guys make my job very, very easy. You know that, because I was thinking the same thing, Mel. I thought maybe there was a chance he could land in Baltimore, because I think Lamar Jackson's going to take a beating. I really, really do. He didn't, but anytime you drop to the second round and you land with Doug Peterson, and again, the biggest thing for me why that pick was so good is because of the injury history to Carson Wentz. And when you had Nick Foles in there, Nick Foles is your insurance policy. So I think Jalen Hurts is going to have a much better career than most people think. I also believe that for those individuals that are criticizing this pick, I totally don't buy what they're thinking, because nowadays this is a 2-quarterback league. I don't care what anybody says, okay? It is a 2-quarterback league. One guy goes down, you better go out there and have another one to take his place. I don't want to get into this one too much, but even though the Green Bay Packers traded up to get Jordan Love, God forbid Aaron Rodgers gets hurt and Jordan Love develops a little bit, then you have a viable backup until he's ready to take the starting role. How many times, think about the Detroit Lions, Mel. When Matthew Stafford was healthy last year, they were competitive, but their backup quarterbacks never even won a game in Stafford's absence, and therefore their season went down the drain fairly quickly. So, but yeah, no, I'm definitely, I applaud the move by the Eagles for taking Jalen Hurts. It was a bold move. It was a gutty move. But in the end, I believe that move is going to pay some dividends with them. All right, we have two more topics, and we're going to go to this one. We're going to go NFL canceling the international games. What I like about it is one of the teams that was projected to go to London with the Jacksonville Jaguars, from what I've heard, was the Detroit Lions. So I get to see them in Jacksonville. So I can say that works out for me. But Mel, what do you think about them canceling these international games?
Well, I think they had to. I don't know if we're going to have international flights at that particular time. And like we've been saying, we don't even know if we're going to have NFL season this year, but I hope that we do. But I think that's something that they had to do. You can't take the risk with, having that many people going somewhere and then coming back, and can't have the risk of another little epidemic in a particular area of society, and then you have to close the whole thing down again. So, I think it's a smart move. We can get that thing controlled over here, and hopefully by the end of the year, first of next year, we get a vaccination. Then we can go back to life pretty much as it was before. But, yeah, I just think that makes all the sense in the world not to risk it. You can't risk taking that many people. The NFL team, it's not like a basketball team going somewhere where you have, maybe, 30 people going somewhere, if that many. A football team, there's a lot of folks. You're going to have 100, 150 people traveling overseas interacting with a whole bunch of different folks. It's just too risky. I think that's the right move. I think it's a smart move.
Go ahead, Rick.
Well, I don't even know if we're going to have an NFL season. I've been saying this for quite some time, and people are like looking at me like, "No, we will." So we don't know that. We have no idea. So I mean, they had to do this. I mean, it'd be Russian roulette if you travel from country to country. I mean, it's not even safe to travel from state to state. So I mean, this is a no-brainer, and they had to do this. And I mean, and right now we just don't have it contained yet. It gets a little better, but then it gets, you hear all these numbers projected of people getting sick and people dying. Out here in North Carolina, it's been really, really bad, and our governor just put a phase 1 on it. But yet our barbershops and restaurants are still closed, and bars are still closed. So I mean, if those are still closed and restaurants are still closed, how in the world can they accommodate 100 to 200 people from one country to another, or even from state to state? So this is a no-brainer, and this is something they have to do.
Yeah, according to our David Levin, Jacksonville stands to lose $32 million because they're each game, I think, is like $16 million per sellout. You know how they do it at Wembley Stadium, and the Jaguars depend on that London revenue to stay in the black. Unfortunately, this year doesn't look like anybody's going to make any money because it's an outright disaster anyhow. The only thing that saves the NFL from any problems is they have a great TV deal compared to a lot of the other sports. But yeah, it's definitely the right move to make. You have no choice. Did anybody think there would be anything normalcy about this year anyways, based on everything that's taken care of? Now, the NFL got a little bit of a break because they start later in the year compared to the other sports that are scrambling, like hockey to wrap up, basketball to wrap up, baseball to even get started. So the NFL has at least until August or September. And again, even though their schedule is coming out on Thursday, again, they're going to have contingency plans for it. So it'll be interesting. But yeah, I think I agree with both of you. It's the right move. There's so much uncertainty, who knows what. I think they were just fortunate enough to get the draft in. So, yeah, no doubt about it. So, and our final topic is one that we probably kind of expected: the legacy of the iconic Don Shula, the former Miami Dolphins coach who led the Dolphins to a pair of Super Bowls, including the undefeated season. Rick, I'm going to let you start off on this one.
Yeah, it's just sad news. I mean, a patriarch, an architect, a genius, one of the greatest head coaches in all of football, a living legend in Don Shula. He lived 90 years, a great life, multiple Super Bowl champion, and, of course, the only coach that can say led a team in 1972 to a perfect season and win the whole shebang. So, may he rest in peace. I love Don Shula. There will never be another Don Shula. He's just a total legend. And I heard that he was just a great man, not only on the field, but also off the field. So I hope he rests in peace, and condolences to him and his family.
Go ahead, Mel.
Yeah, it's definitely, sad news. But I'm sure Don Shula is saying, don't cry for me, because he had he lived his life to the fullest. He had a full 90 years. I was thinking back when I heard the news. I was sitting here watching TV. I was watching something on ESPN, and I saw something come across my phone that he had passed away. And I was thinking back to my rookie year in 1988 when I was with the Denver Broncos when we played Miami down there, and just thinking about that just being in the presence of greatness like that. Even though I wasn't on the Dolphins team, but had an opportunity to play against that team. And the thing that about him, he won a Super Bowl. Look at the quarterbacks that he had. He had Johnny Unitas, then he had Bob Greasy, and then he had Dan Marino. So the type of coach that he was when he had Bob Greasy and Larry Zonka and Mercury Morris was an entirely different than the coach that he was with Dan Marino. Because when he had Dan Marino, they threw that ball around the lot. When they had Bob Greasy, they didn't throw the ball that much. It was Larry Zonka and Mercury Morris. So his ability to adapt, to coach that long, 33 years coaching the NFL. I mean, you just don't get that anymore. And it just doesn't happen. Some guys don't make it a year now, and there's guys that have coached 1 year and get fired. Right. So to be able to be around the game for that long, to be the coach for that long, to be able to amass the number of wins that he was able to amass, 347 wins, including playoffs, I mean, it's remarkable. It's remarkable and I think he only had 2 losing seasons in all that time. It's just remarkable, what he was able to accomplish in the game of football, especially, when you look at it nowadays, when there's no job security in coaching football anymore. He went out on his own terms. He felt it was time for him to retire, and he went ahead and walked away from the game. But yeah, it's very, very sad. He's a true gentleman and a true champion, and he is somebody that's going to be, obviously, he's going to be greatly missed.
All right, well, let me throw a few more things into this whole conversation. Number one, Don Shula, as many people know, was a former assistant for the Detroit Lions back, I think, in the early 60s. That's item number one. Two, I loved eating at his steakhouses. I used to eat at them in Tampa when the Lions would play the Buccaneers. But more importantly, Mel and Rick, I had the opportunity to work with Don Shula from 1982 to 84 when I was a young sports writer for a weekly paper in South Florida. And the things I learned from Coach Shula were unbelievable. I think one of my favorite stories that I can tell people and I had a lot of good memories with Coach, especially during that time. I was probably too young to appreciate it, but I did, and I had some lifelong lessons. I'll never forget the time when the Fort Lauderdale Strikers staff took on the Fort Lauderdale Strikers media, for which I was a part of. I injured my ankle, had to go on crutches, and then I had to do some training camp stuff. So there was a nice little rainy drizzle over at Biscayne College in Miami, and Don Shula, in his own Papa Shula way, he took a little time for him to get used to me, and I was intimidated by the guy. So he said, I'm sitting in his office with another reporter, and he says to me, and he called me by my first name because he got to know me by that time. So, do you think I should waive you or put you on injured reserve? So I looked up to him and I said, Coach, I kind of like you to put me on injured reserve. That way I'm part of the team. And he gave me a nice big smile from here to Alaska. And he really did. I said, hey, I want to be on the team. Forget about cutting me. And then he just smiles and no problem, because it was just a lighthearted moment. And then another great story is when I got to know him a little bit more around training camp. I would say, Coach, let me ask you, what is it that made you a real successful coach? And he told me, you know what? I try to focus on what the guys can do, not what the guys cannot do. In other words, feeding off their strengths. And let me tell you, I have learned that throughout my entire lifetime. Think about it. I learned these lessons between 19 and 21, and I'm 57 years old. So I'm taking these lessons that a very successful man went out there and gave me and trying to apply them to life. So, yeah, Don Shula passed away in his sleep. And, the irony of his passing on May 4th was, Mel, you probably know it all too well. Ernie Harwell of the Detroit Tigers passed away on May 4th, 2010. So 10 years apart, you had two Hall of Fame icons and two Hall of Fame people that died. So it's unbelievable how those two individuals could go ahead and ironically pass away, albeit a decade apart. So, rest in peace, Coach Shula. There was a time I was hoping to see him at a Super Bowl party at the Diplomat Hotel, but I was at one, the Taste of the NFL, and Shula was at the other one. But it was never meant to work out for me to go ahead and take a photo with him. Didn't have camera photos of him, but I get to take away the memories. And Rick, I should tell you, Mark Wilson and I, remember we talked on that show about Mark and I working together with Don Shula? You remember that on the broadcast, right?
I remember.
Yeah, so then Mark and I were exchanging messages the other way, and it was just pretty cool how we addressed it on the Sports Exchange with all three of us together, only to find out just a short time later, Coach Shula passed away. But at least he died in sleep, age 90. And you know what? Ernie Harwell died of bile of the duct cancer, but he made it to 92. So a celebration of Ernie Harwell's life, but more so Don Shula. I don't care whether Belichick passes his record or not. To me, Don Shula right now can go rest in peace, knowing that he held the all-time wins record. Whatever happens after that, he'll never know about it anyway. So, guys, anything else you want to add before we close out the broadcast about what we talked about tonight?
No, sir.
I would like to commend Carson Wentz. I don't think we've seen Aaron Rodgers' reaction with Love getting drafted, how he felt upset and all that stuff. I asked him, I had a Carson Wentz. You haven't heard him squawk about anything. You haven't heard him complain. You haven't heard him say, trade me. You haven't heard him say anything when they got Jalen Hurts. So I commend Carson Wentz for being a professional and the drafting of Jalen Hurts.
Thanks for bringing that up.
As a competitor, he shouldn't say anything. I mean, that's why they have the draft every year to get better, and they're going to bring guys in every year fighting for a job. I mean, it's competitive. It's a dog-eat-dog world.
Yeah.
The professional football, college football even. I mean, you could be the top guy taken in a particular class, and the next year they're bringing in 2 or 3 more guys at the same position. That's just how it is.
Yeah, and
you got to fight. If you want to play, you got to fight.
Yeah, and it should be like that, but we always have to hear some player always come out, and I mean, look at Bradford when they drafted Carson Wentz. You know, he was like, I mean, trade me, get me out of here. I'm upset, blah blah, blah. And they act like crybabies, and it's just nice and refreshing.
Divas, man. They're spoiled.
Yeah, and it's so refreshing not to hear anything from Carson Wentz just being a true professional, and you know you don't get that a lot because they are. You're right. People are spoiled now. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, guys, you did a good job. So with that said, Mr. Curdy, you're going to lead off and let people know how they can get a hold of you.
Well, you can contact me on my website. We're at www.charlottebats.com. We're also on Facebook at Charlotte Bats Baseball. We have a group page called Charlotte MLB. I'm also on LinkedIn at Rick Curdy. I'm also on Twitter, Charlotte Bats Baseball and Rick Curdy. And I'm also on Instagram at R Curdy or Charlotte Bats Baseball. And you can contact me on all those venues. And my email address is cltbatsbaseball@gmail.com. That's cltbatsbaseball@gmail.com.
Go ahead, Mel.
Okay. Get a hold of me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Melfar Jr., easy to find. Our website is melfar.org, and email is melfarjr@gmail.com.
All right, and finally, you're listening to the Motor City Madmouth. We are live tonight here on the Sports Exchange. I'm glad to be joined by Rick Curdy and Mel Farr. In terms of getting a hold of me, you can, if you want to go ahead and add me on LinkedIn, go to Scott Morganroth, and then I'll be more than happy to connect with you. On Instagram, we're looking at South Florida Tribune. Follow us there. So I have a YouTube channel, South Florida Tribune. Please subscribe to that. You'll get the updates when I finally can get back on the road and start talking to people. And, of course, on Facebook, like us there at South Florida Tribune. We have I have two Twitter accounts, the business as well as this one. At Scoop with 5333333 is my personal account, and at Tribune South. You can reach us here at the South Florida Tribune at www.southfloridatribune.com, as well as email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. So we have a lot to get out there. Some of our other featured shows on the South Florida Tribune Broadcasting Network include Motorman and Rude Dog, the South Florida Tribune Podcast, The Real and the Rare, and, of course, you're listening to Sports Exchange, as well as the South Florida Tribune Podcast. So we have and Fantasy Football with myself and Ryan Skolrud. So we got 6 excellent shows. And you know what? I'm glad that we're able to continue to grow the network. And the time we put in, folks, is what we really try to do our best to do. I don't know about you guys, but I can tell that we hope everybody's enjoyed this edition of the Sports Exchange tonight. We hope that we've been a very good diversion for you, that we can, and you'll be able to take something and learn something from our broadcast. We also hope that you can be safe, stay at home. Kudos to our first responders. And practice social distancing. It's so easy to make a mistake, and this is very avoidable if you play your cards right. So hope we've covered it all tonight, and we look forward to another edition of the Sports Exchange with Rick Curdy and Mel Farr. They're doing an outstanding job together, and these two guys are being linked here. I just enjoyed the insights that you guys have. You know, Mel, now that you've already gone on a limb that you're going to go ahead and do some boxing commentary for us. We all know that Rick Curdy loves to talk about baseball, don't you, Rick?
Yep. What was that again? I'm sorry.
I know you love to talk about baseball, don't you?
I love baseball. I love football. I love boxing. I love all sports. But yes, I love baseball. It's my passion.
Yeah, yeah. And again, we try to keep it versatile and real, and that's what we're going to continue to aim as we continue to go along. But once again, guys, I think it's been a really good time tonight, and looking forward to continuing to have more fun with the two of you on more and more broadcasts as we go along. So once again, on behalf of Rick Curdy and Mel Farr Jr., my name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Mad. Well, thank you for joining us tonight, and we will catch you the next time. Good night, everybody.
Good night.